Are you ready?
All right, welcome back. First Step Drop Podcast. Super excited. We'll take things a little different direction here. For me personally, I'm the furthest thing from a politician there is. I'm a football coach. Through and through, I'm a football guy. More recently a player. But we're here for a reason today. And want to deviate kind of from the direction we've been going. Pumped to get a bunch of guys to come on in the next few weeks, but for right now, I'm lucky enough to be joined by three of my former college teammates from all over the country. I'll introduce them in a second, but before we get into this thing, I want to encourage people. I know a lot of people, that may listen to this podcast have not been, exposed or really seen, the things that are going on in this country. Luckily enough, I was able to share the locker room with guys that I trust and I love. And, I was raised in a home that I'm lucky enough that, no matter what your race, background, beliefs are, you treat somebody as a human being and, you expect that in return. And the locker room and the bond in a college locker room is really special. So, I'm excited to be joined by these guys off of, the tragic murder of George Floyd and the protests throughout the country, all 50 states. As we're here to talk about race in a college locker room, and really throughout sports here. So, I'm lucky enough to be joined by here. If you end up watching on YouTube, we have Corey King from California, from Northridge, California, in our top left. We have Gavin Njoku, wide receiver from Weymouth, Massachusetts, played at Catholic Memorial. And then we have down in the right-hand corner a good friend, college roommate, Nate Lewis from Lanham, Maryland, PG County down by, the DMV.
That's right.
College teammates with Dwayne Haskins. So, I'm pumped to have you guys. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us, man.
To even jump into something like this, as a white man, just some things that, I've kind of seen over the last few days, to kind of put into perspective before I throw things over to you guys, white privilege. I grew up in an affluent white town, didn't play with an African-American teammate until I was in high school. We had one guard, Andrew Dallencourt, great kid. But, it wasn't until I got to college that I was really able to, play and, really be with, black players from all over the country, from different backgrounds, guys that, were literally from all over the country and believe different things. But, it furthered, what I believe as a person. You guys know me, it's at the end of the day, are you going to be able to run that 14 back to 12 comeback route? Are you going to be in the places that I trust you? The bonds, your responsibility as a football player and as a coach, the trust and the love that you have for the guys in that locker room, that's expected. And that's, no matter where guys come from, so just kind of, I guess, opening thoughts that you guys have, just what you've seen throughout the country and, just kind of, some beginning thoughts from you guys. We'll pop it up to Corey.
Yeah. Just right off the bat, like you said, man, like even for me, coming from like the LA area, going to New Hampshire, I knew that it was going to be like a pretty white area with a lot of white people, but the white people that I grew up with weren't the same as the white people that I was with in college, which isn't a bad thing. It was a good experience, but it was definitely different. So like I would say I even had a privilege of being around white people who thought and acted like I did out here. And then once you get to college, you're in a totally different space. People believe different things. It's just great. It was great to learn like what people thought and their beliefs. And like you said, like college locker room is special, man. Like I had the same roommate all 4 years. He's one of my best friends, Betts. Shout out to Betts, white dude from Florida. Like I wouldn't have thought that going in, So it's just funny how that worked out. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, first of all, rest in peace, George Floyd, and keep his family and loved ones in your prayers. But for me, um, for I was born in Pittsburgh, played sports in Pittsburgh, middle class town, decent amount of diversity. Then I moved to Massachusetts here. Again, middle class town, a little more diversity. I went to my high school was in Boston, was in the city, so I had probably maybe even more black people on my team than white. So it was just I've been blessed to see kind of both sides of the spectrum throughout my life. But once I got to college, it was like Corey said, a lot of white people, which isn't a bad thing. It's just new experiences. I think life is mostly about just adapting, and meeting new people. So um, I met some of my closest friends there. I got you guys. I got Zach. Shout out Zach Fairweather, all of them Fairweather, New Hampshire, Mr. Gatorade, Powerade, whatever you want to call him. But these are all just people that that if it wasn't for the circumstances, how would you even run into each other? You know what I mean? So that's what makes it so interesting, I think.
So, yeah, a little bit about me. Like, football, that's what I love about football. Like, the locker room is pretty diverse. Like, if it wasn't for football, there's a lot of guys I wouldn't have any friendships with, like BMAC, for example. Like, I don't know. If it wasn't for football, I'm not sure if we would have been as close as we were. It's a great thing about football. But a little bit about my background. So I growing up in Prince George's County, it's like the wealthiest, predominantly black county in like the nation, or one of. It's like up there. And my dad was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have you go to Bullis," and that's why I ended up doing middle school and high school there. And it was different. I remember I got there. I've never seen so many white people in my life. That's when I learned. My dad told me, like, yeah, like black people are outnumbered in this country. Like maybe like 1 to 7, like one black person sees 7 white people. I remember hearing that, I was shocked because growing up where I grew up, it's like all black people. And then went to Bullis, I learned like it wasn't like that in the world. Not saying it's a bad thing, it was just, a learning experience, kind of like shaped me. And then going to high school playing football, like our team was pretty much half white, half black. Like it was pretty much split down the middle. And honestly, like the guys on the team, they were good. I wouldn't say like obviously they don't understand us, but it was they were more like inclusive of us than people who weren't on the team, and that was that is what it is, but it was nice to have your teammates had your back out there. And then that same go for college. Like college is even more white people going to St. A's, and that was even more of a culture shock. But like I said, great group of guys on those teams as well, man. I love every single one of those guys. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me and my background.
Just going back to like what you guys said about like just trusting the guy next to you, I feel like even through all this, like at the end of the day, like you always like I just feel like in general men, like male athletes can play with people whether you like them or not. Like I can trust someone whether I agree with them, like them, whatever. Like you could have beef with someone on the team, but at the end of the day, like you knew they're gonna do their job and do their thing. I don't know if that's like I feel like, not to sound sexist, I feel like in women's sports, like they like to like each other in order to play well together. But men, I feel like we were able to put that to the side and just know that our dude is gonna do his thing regardless of his beliefs. I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel that way too. But.
No, I hear you, and I definitely think that I definitely think that's why football is so interesting, because it's really the only sport, maybe besides rugby, but obviously rugby, I mean, it is what it is. But football, you're really laying your life on the line every time you step out there, right?
Yeah.
And so you have no choice but to trust those people around you. So because if you don't trust them, I don't know. If I don't trust my lineman, whoever, like BMAC, if you don't trust your lineman, you're not playing. You know what I mean? Because that's at that point, it just you're risking your own health, and that's when it becomes. So that's why I think football is really that special.
Yeah, we ask guys in football to do things that go against human nature. We ask somebody to run as hard as you can at this person who's whose goal is to run, through you and get to the other side. It's, but, like you guys said, to fill people in, we played together for 2 seasons at St. Anselm College, is a school up in Manchester, New Hampshire. We only had about, 3,000 people on the campus. And, I'd say, from being there, like you said, Nate, the team was about 50-50. But, when you guys left practice, when you left the meetings, when you left the lifts, that school, unless you're on the football team or the basketball team, that is a 98%, white school, most likely in the Northeast. Obviously, pretty crazy, especially Corey, coming across the country. But definitely, it's a crazy thing, for you guys to experience. You're in a comfortable environment in the class, and then all of a sudden, not that it was uncomfortable, but you might go to your principles of marketing class, and you might be one of 22 students, and you're the only black student.
Plenty of classes, only black kid in there. I actually have a funny story from freshman year. It's crazy. This girl told me that I was like the first black person she pretty much like ever like had like a real conversation with. Freshman year, we'd been alive at least like 17, 18 years, and I'm hearing that. And it's just like, she's not the only one.
So that's the perfect transition. That's the perfect transition. As we welcome in another former teammate, welcome Emmanuel Kinlasotu. Welcome, dude.
Wow, E-Man.
Oh, how you doing, man?
Good.
Good, Nick Dog.
What's up, man?
What up, man?
Good.
So Nate Dogg just told us a story about one of his classmates, had gone up to Nate his freshman year, first black person she'd ever met in her 18 years. That's kind of a good segue, for me, that I want to reach out, while we're still here early on in this thing. I want to reach out to the people that are listening to this, that are like myself, that you look in the mirror and, you're a white person that's had the privilege of, without it, being omnipresent, you've had the advantage your entire life. I'd like to reach out to those people. It's a difficult conversation to have. I'm pumped to have you guys here. I implore people to open their ears and hear what's being said here by these guys. We got people, brothers and sisters throughout the country, that are, disproportionately losing their lives to police compared to white people. Ask people to not just listen. Anybody can listen. A husband that's got his wife tuned out is listening, but he's not hearing. Your kid and the kids that I, substitute taught in kindergarten a few weeks ago, before COVID hit, they would listen, but they weren't really hearing what I was saying. This issue, is so freaking prevalent, man, throughout the country. This is our stand, man. This is, after MLK died in 1965, when he passed away, there was protests for 6 days, protests in 110 cities throughout the country. And then the Civil Rights Act of 1965 was passed, and all that did was open up the door. I've seen people on Twitter, and it's frustrating. Again, I said this earlier on, E-Man, I'm not a politician. I'm a football coach. I'm a football guy. But we've been fighting the same fight for hundreds of years, man. In 1965, people want to use it as, that it became equal. It didn't become equal. If you're a white person and you believe that, it's about right and wrong, it's not true. In 1965, we took the training wheels off. I saw a beautiful comparison. I believe it was Chris Cuomo that spoke it beautifully. He's like, we just took the training wheels off in 1965. We're running a 400-meter race, and for the first 200 meters of the race, we held back black people in this country and said, you stay here while we ran ahead, and we didn't take the gates off until 1965. So we have so much fucking work to do in this country. But I implore people to listen to what these guys have to say, not just listen, hear what's being said to people. There's a lot of anger in people's hearts for good reason. The lives that have been lost over the years is, it breaks your heart. Not just George Floyd, that really sparked, this much needed revolution really, but Ahmaud Arbery and, the countless other names that, that haven't gotten their justice. But, just kind of, I guess we'll go to, I got a quote here from Aaron Rodgers earlier. And, I'd like to hear what you guys think on this. So Aaron said it beautifully. And, I'm not a massive fan of Aaron. I think he's gotten this is going to be a little quarterback coachy, but I think he's gotten pretty lazy in his drops. And, he kind of goes out there and is pretty loose with it right now. I don't think he cares the most right now, but what he does care about right now is what's important. And he said earlier today, he said it's never been about the anthem or about a flag in response to Drew Brees' comments yesterday. He said, it wasn't about the flag then. It's not about it now. Listen with an open heart. Let's educate ourselves and then turn word into action. I just got goosebumps saying, because at this point, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Everyone can talk, and we had the Blackout Tuesday movement on Instagram, but it's really at this point taking our words from the last, really a few decades since 1965 when we realized, we fucked up. We got to, there's a lot of work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
We got to start putting things into action. What's kind of your first thoughts when you guys take a look at what Aaron Rodgers said and kind of where things have gone the last few days there?
You may start us off.
All right, man. First and foremost, I gotta really just thank you, bro. I really appreciate what you're doing right now, man. That really warms my heart because not too many white people and not too many of our white brothers that we play with are even reaching. I haven't had no one reach out to me. Not that I'm saying I need that, but I'm just saying that's something that crossed my mind. You know what I mean? Just hit me up. Even if you say something wrong, you showing me that you care means the world to me, and that warms my heart, bro. For real, because not too many white people are doing that, and that's the scary thing. And then speaking on what A-Rod is saying, Aaron Rodgers, man, he's the exact opposite of Drew Brees. He's using his impact to make an impact. Don't just use your impact and just do the normal. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to something like this, it's really starting to upset me where people just starting to have opinions on things that are facts. It's a fact that that we were put in last place. So stop having opinions about factual things. So that's where I'm at with that. Where we're at in this whole country. It's sad.
As personally me, I have a great respect for Aaron Rodgers, and I think I've had this conversation with you before. B-Mac, I think he's the most talented quarterback to ever play football.
With you.
Aside from that, I just that was incredible what he said. Just because, you could tell that he gets it. You know what I mean? That's really what it just comes down to. Drew Brees, him saying what he said, based in my eyes, what that just showed me is for the past 6-7 years since when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, he literally has not listened to a word anybody has said, and that is just tragic to me because people have pushed so hard just to try and get people to listen, and he showed that he wasn't listening, right? And again, and I don't mean to bring this man up, but this is why I have zero respect for Tom Brady. This is the Tom Brady, right? The people see him as the best quarterback in the league. People see he is the most influential player in the league, has the biggest voice.
Mad impact.
And he doesn't say anything, and he openly supports Donald Trump, right? So this is why, and I think that carries a lot of weight, just because. And I understand that you have his teammates saying, "Oh, he's basically black. He's a great guy, whatever," which I don't doubt. That's fine. But this is just a point in time where you can't really, as a player, as a person of his stature, you can't be silent at this time because his following is just so big that people see him silence and they're just like, okay, it's okay to be silent. It's okay to sit back and do nothing when it's really not. And that's why Tom Brady will never really sit right with me personally.
So to defend Tommy, not that it's a Tommy defense, but so Tommy put out a little a thing this morning. It was a video I wasn't able to share with you guys, but Tommy, you know, kind of similarly, you know, being a New England guy, wasn't like there. You know, Tommy put out a thing, you know, similar, you know, I think to speak on Tom Brady, you know, the way that he's treated teammates in his career, you know, I think goes a long way to speak about what he does, but, you know, less about Tom Brady, more about, you know, just the way that these guys, you know, I think with Drew, you know, the biggest thing, you know, now is obviously, you know, he's going to take flack on Twitter, and, you know, that is what it is, you know, it's right that he gets that. But for Drew, really,
I mean, it's also because it's New Orleans, bro.
It's about those guys in the locker room. You got to think about the guys in the locker room that he's playing with. You got Michael Thomas, Malcolm Jenkins speaking out yesterday, Alvin Kamara. You got guys that, you know, had profound respect and stuff. And to see that from Drew, you know, we don't know what conversations he had privately, but, you know, for him to come out and say that, you know, and, you know, kind of take his stance like that, you know, I see people on Facebook that say stuff like that about the flag. And, you know, Shannon Sharp had a really good thing earlier, and he was talking about, you know, you want to talk about the flag, you know, how about the people in World War II, you know, the black soldiers that went over and fought for our country and then came home, and, you know,
that's what I was making
Civil
about
Rights Act is not passed yet at that point. So, you know, they go over and, you know, serve our country and give their lives and come back, and, you know, for that flag that, you know, people, you know, they misunderstood where Colin Kaepernick was coming from in 2017. You know, along with, you know, really pretty much the whole country, you know, and I think that's kind of where I'd like to hear how you guys think about it. I think,
if you don't mind me interjecting, so just a couple of things with Drew Brees. You know, it's just unfortunate because it seems like over the past 4 years, like Gavin said, he wasn't listening to what people were saying, how it's never about the flag, and how he kept talking about how his grandparents fought in World War II, but like you said, so did black people, and they came back to a country that was still segregated, still went through those issues. But my biggest thing, you know, is when people try and use the flag as like a shield to defend their feelings or whatever they want, defend the country, however you want to use the flag. If you see the flag and you get this pride and joy that us as black men really don't get, I feel like I can speak for most. Like when the national anthem starts, I don't get pride and joy that some people, mostly white, that feel like do. If you feel that pride and we don't, versus I feel like a lot of the times people are like, well, if you don't like it, then you should leave the country. Versus it should be like, if you don't like it, then I should make it so you do like it. I should try and convince you how good the country is, how good you should feel, versus being like, you should leave. You know what I'm saying? So instead of trying to tell people how to feel, why not try and change the way they feel? Why not try and show love and make ways to make it so they can love the country as much as you do at the end of the day? I feel like a lot of the times now, like, we're so divided that we're not trying to like get to a solution. But if we could be like, instead of if you hate the country, leave, it's not about that. It's like, how about if we both want to be better, let's do better together. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you said this was a place for me. Why isn't it like working out for me, you know? And the lines are so blurred, you know, that's where like people start saying like all lives matter and things like that. And then they like try to focus on like, okay, like we got, you know, that's a big success that we got those 4 cops, right? But like people, you know, it's gonna be a lot of people that's gonna stop there. Like, okay, and so what? We got them, right? Shouldn't it stop? Like, no, man, this is 400 years long. Like, it's crazy, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram yesterday, but I posted a thing just talking about how like people try and like derail the movement, try and like stop the progress. You know, that's not what we need right now. If a person dies, we should all be upset. It shouldn't be like trying to find ways. What about black on black crime? What about this? No.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the main issue. If people are dying, white or black, then it's a police issue. Like if you say white people are killed by the police too, okay, then we need to fix it even more. You should even be more on our side.
Exactly. Let's go. Let's be a team. Yeah,
like,
man.
Clearly, there's a problem here, right?
There's the problem, man.
If every race is dying by police, then every race needs to be behind this. You know?
Exactly.
The biggest thing I can point to for examples right now that really like shows me how like people in America, it's a rhetoric thing, and it's like a pre-bias thing. It's like something that people can't like help. Like not everyone's gonna be like you, B-Mac. Like, and I'm glad that you like that, bro. Like that, it really warms my heart because not everyone's like that. People like people just say like stuff without thinking about it, and it's like how may that affect someone that you got to be able to take empathetic, like take yourself out of your shoes and put yourself into someone else's life. The biggest example would be the lady off of Fox 5, yo. They're literally talking about the same topic. LeBron James and Kevin Durant. They're saying this. They're talking about the same exact topic, man. And because they're black men and they have their own, this is not opinion. This should not be an opinion thing anymore. Everyone should be on the same side. They say what they need to say, what's the right thing. She goes off and says the stupid stuff. Shut up and dribble, right? Drew Brees, she praises him. It's the same topic. It's like, come on, man. Do you see what they're doing? It's just like, you're not that blind. I really don't get what's going on. So
yeah, I was actually going to speak about that too. She said Drew Brees is entitled to his opinion, but when it's Kevin Durant and LeBron James, he's saying shut up and dribble. That's why I'm so happy Aaron Rodgers came out and you know, he because that we need like the white athletes too to really come out.
Carson Wentz said he like posted a thing too. We need more white players coming out.
Allies, bro.
It's the same message, but people will take it differently coming from a white athlete. You know,
exactly.
that's just real. That's why what Drew Brees said is so disappointing because that's that validates a lot of people's opinions.
Yeah,
even the apology, like it's too late. The damage has been done. Like,
right. Because at the end of the day, if a week after Kaepernick, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers start taking a knee, conversation over. You know what I'm saying? And the protest, the way you protest is never going to be agreed upon by the people or the systems you're protesting against. Like this past week, we've seen people walking in the street. Are they protesting traffic or police brutality? If someone's taking a knee during the national anthem, are they protesting the flag or police brutality? So like, let's focus on the issue and not the way we're protesting, and we can get somewhere.
Exactly.
So trying to derail the movement, you know?
Yeah, man. That's the thing, man. It's systematic. It's so blurred, and like people get off topic so much. But to me, at the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing. It's all these different pieces, but it's the same topic. So let's focus on the big issue and like really get to like handling it. Because me personally, I don't necessarily want white people to feel our pain, but I want them to be able to see our pain, acknowledge it, don't be scared of it, don't run away from it. Yes, your ancestors did do it, but I'm not blaming you for that. That's all right. We're going to move past this together. And then after we do that, then we can continue to celebrate black people. I want to put you onto our music. I want you to start, because like, I mean, I took a course and the professor was white and he was saying like, it's not, I don't think it's true in all cases, but I think it is a big indicator. And it was like, how a person feels about a culture's music is usually how they feel about their people. And I hear so many white people like, if it's not like someone on a football team or like, you know, white person that's hip, it's just like, I don't like that music, or I don't like those people's music and the rhetoric that they use. So I want people to learn about our music and learn about our culture. It wasn't until I left my all black area and I went to all white area, and I'm like, speaking of black classic shows, I'm thinking they're like the greatest things ever. Like, hey, you ever watch Martin? You ever watch this? And they're like, no, I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, damn, my world became so small. I'm like, yo, do I matter? Like, do I even
having to leave PG, man. It's not like PG everywhere.
Yeah, man. You don't know anything I know. It's crazy.
So you brought up I saw a really interesting thing for the people listening, you know, like we said, I think a lot of it, you know, people got to get comfortable with the conversation. People got to get used to the fact, you know, this is not going away. It's not going anywhere until we, you know, make some moves in the right direction. You know, so the all lives matter thing, you know, that's something that kind of, you know, digs me a little bit. You know, I saw something earlier that was it was a pretty interesting comparison. So I saw, you know, for the people listening, you know, imagine you're at your 2-year-old son, you know, you got a nice big party in the neighborhood, you know, your 2-year-old son's birthday, and, you know, everyone's there to celebrate your son. You got all the pictures of him and, you know, it's all about him, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, everyone's praising, you know, oh, kid's great, you know, we love Jimmy. Jimmy's a great kid. And you got, you know, your Aunt Tina comes down from down the hall, and she comes in and she's like, well, you know, it's like all kids are pretty special. It's like, not just your kid's pretty special. It's like, that is not what we're talking about right now. We're not talking about all kids. That's kind of in a loose way, kind of where we're at. It's like, people don't want to talk about, people don't want to talk about, the issues that are at hand right now. So they want to cover it up. It's, well, don't police lives matter? Blue lives matter, all that. Of course, that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to a point where every life matters, but right now it's not about us. It's, I want people to realize it's like, all lives matter is just covering up for what, what the issue is right now that we're dealing with. So people trying to cover that up with stuff that make them feel better, or, they're trying to kind of suffocate the conversation a little bit. That's just, it's not the right way to go about it right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes back to like the Drew Brees thing, how he kept mentioning his grandparents. Okay, what about other people? That's all we're talking about is other people right now. We get
exactly.
Your grandparents are heroes. I'm happy they fought in World War II, but this is what we're talking about right now. Let's talk about it. Let's get past it. Let's fight for it. And I don't know. So yeah.
And to tell you, I'll even tell you guys about a little experience I've had before. I've had a person, I think it was like a while. It was like back when maybe like when Trayvon Martin got killed, right? And somebody came up to me and they were like, "Oh, like, but why does it matter? Why do you care? Like, it didn't affect you in any way. Like, it doesn't matter to you." And a response to that I have to that, and you'll see if you say it to excuse me, B-Mac, if you say it to a white person, you'll see that their face turns upside down. You could just be like, okay, but did 9/11 affect you in any way? You know what I mean? Like 9/11, it was a tragedy, yes, but it didn't have any direct impact on you. So I could say the same thing about that to all these killings. You know what I mean? And then once you say that, a white person, their face will turn sour, and all of a sudden, they look at you like you're speaking French, and it's like, listen, like it's really the situation. I don't know why it's hard for a lot of people to understand that for some reason all these lives are being lost, and yes, maybe we have no relation, but our people are our people, and I feel like it's kind of difficult to understand for a white person because they don't really have like a group of people. You know what I mean? It's just and with all due respect, the white people, they don't really have like culture. You know what I mean? Like black, there's black culture. There's African culture.
They decimated it. They all came together.
They just
Right. They
melted.
assimilated. Like Italians used to be Italian, now they're white.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Now they're white.
It's hard to tell. Yeah.
That's like an assimilation issue that black people have been in this country just as long as them, but our culture never assimilated like the Italians, the Jews, the Irish. So Go ahead, my fault.
One critique that I do have for black people though, and E-Man, I actually want to ask you because I know it is for me. I know we're both Nigerian. It is for me.
Yes, sir.
So black Americans, right?
Yeah.
And African Americans, they're two very different groups of people.
Yeah, it's very two different things. Yeah.
Very two different. And for example, the way that me and E-Man were brought up and the way that Corey and Nate were brought up were probably two very different ways, right?
Yeah, stark ways.
And I don't know if you noticed how with these protests, there not a single country in Africa had any protests for this George Floyd. And I think, and I talked to my parents about it, and my parents even said it's actually a bad thing, but for some reason, Africans don't really group themselves with Black Americans.
Yeah, it's sad. It's true though.
And it's bad because it divides us even more. And together,
that's a great critique.
How strong we can be. You know what I mean?
That's a great critique. Yeah, I don't know how it was for you. I mean, so you grew up in did you grow up in the New England area your whole life?
No, I grew up in Pittsburgh.
And where?
In Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh for real, bro. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Was it 50-50 black white, or was it
It was
like mixed?
I would say it was like 70-30 white to black. Like
That's cool.
there was
A little more,
diversity.
diverse. That's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, I don't know, man. My area is very special. Like we have like one of the wealthiest. Nate can attest to it. One of the wealthiest areas for black people. So it's just big homes everywhere. But the sad thing about it, you travel right down the block and gets real. Like you go to my school. Luckily, my school, I had like the best like public school, and it was the newest. So we were taken care of. But the education still wasn't great. It was like people that were like one guy, he's at Morehouse now, but he was in classes and he was in jail and stuff like that. So that just speaks to like the type of education we get. It's kind of sad.
And that's
But
one of the wealthiest in the country.
Black. My area was all black, and my whole life I grew up with African American. I'm African American too, but I'm Nigerian. My bloodline is still there, thank God. But yeah. Speaking of what you said, like it always made me sad. Like I really didn't love myself because so many like African Americans, they just made it hard. My life was hard, bro. Like being dark skinned, everyone else was light skinned. I used to want to be light skinned. I wanted to be whiter. I wanted to be lighter. Like, I didn't love myself. Like I thought I was ugly. I used to look at myself, I'm really ugly. Like making fun of my name, my culture. But nowadays
that's real though.
African, so it's a little bit better. But yeah, and then even what's crazy. I'm in California now, but before I left home, I had a job, and it wasn't the same job as my dad, but I got to be in the same building with him, right? And he's working, older gentleman, same around his age, and he's African American, like black. And I go in, I'm thinking they best friends because they cool, like they mad cool, and like my dad just wasn't like cool with him that week, and he was just like doing too much. He was like joking about our culture, and I didn't know that, and I was like, wow, that still happens to this day. Like a grown man is still like making fun of another man's like culture. So I understand like where the divide comes, but it's kind of weird. But yeah,
it's crazy. It definitely is crazy.
But where we're at in this country, the just seeing. As you said earlier, we got the charges on the 4 police officers with George Floyd, and a bunch of other cases that hopefully start to come in. As reforms come in, hopefully I know there was kind of a big break with now if you're a police officer and you witness an event, you're now legally liable if you didn't do anything, even if you didn't if you're standing there watching, you're just as liable now. So that a tiny, minute step, at least in the memory, of George Floyd. It's, terrible. It came at his expense, but, so we got 100 and, we've seen protests in France. We've seen protests in Italy, all over the place. We just got to unify, like you guys said, we need people to start, opening their ears, opening their hearts. One of the last things I'll kind of give you guys, and I think Tony, I caught it right before we started this thing. So Tony Dungy went on the Pat McAfee show earlier. For those that don't know, Tony Dungy, first African American head coach to ever win the Super Bowl.
Steelers.
Yep, former Steelers player, but won that Super Bowl against the Bears back in 06, I believe, with the Indianapolis Colts. But so he was speaking about the Drew Brees thing, and it was pretty interesting, because obviously, like we said a bunch of times today, the divisiveness is what's hurting us. We need people to be, we need people to see it the same way, right and wrong, But so Tony Dungy came out and he said, Drew Brees can't be afraid to say that. And we can't be afraid to say, okay, I don't agree with you, but let's talk about this. And, for me, it's honestly one of the best things that I've seen in so long. And he's such an amazing figurehead for not only African Americans, but for college football, for the NFL, for him to kind of put it so eloquently, there's a lot of ignorance in this country just with, generations of teaching and, teaching the wrong thing, about humanity and about people. but for Tony to say that, and, where we can get to the point where we can sit down with people and it's like, hey, you're saying this stuff about the flag, but we kind of know why you're saying it. We don't agree with you, but let's talk with it. I kind of really like the way that Tony, put that. Kind of give me your thoughts on just, what Tony said, and just kind of, like we said, most of today, just kind of, where we can go from here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but to start, I just think that is one of many examples why we need more head coaches of color in the NFL, especially for things like that. But because since World War II, there have been like 18 head coaches of color. I think 13 got 3 full seasons, 10 made the playoffs, 2 won Super Bowls, like 4 appeared in the Super Bowl. So like, if a black coach gets his opportunity, most of them with that sample size are great coaches. So I feel like right off the bat, black coaches should get more opportunities to be head coaches, but that's a different conversation. But to just go off what you were saying, like Drew Brees is a perfect example of someone who like obviously grew up and has been around black people for most of his life. He's been in the league, 20 years? So, and he's 40 something. So most of his life, he's been around black people more than white people, I would say, being in locker rooms. And that just shows that like, even being around black people this entire time in his life, he still didn't get it until now. So like, that's why, like, that's a good point. We need people to be able to say those things and be like, okay, you're wrong, and here's why. If you stay silent and you keep those ignorant ideals and that way of thinking your entire life and you pass it on to your kids and their kids, that's not helping anything. But if you're able to talk about it with your friends and be like, okay, like, educate me, I just don't know, I'm ignorant, that's how we're going to make tremendous progress. So
yeah, definitely, most doubt, no doubt at all. Like, I may have not done it in the right way. I'm passionate. I get angry, but every person I've came in contact with and that's close to me and they're white, I've challenged them. That was my deal. It was my deal to challenge them, and it's scary at times, but like.
You're saying this week or your life, your entire life, or just this past week? You're saying?
Oh yeah, this week for sure. This week, right. And even when the whole Trump thing came up, like in the classroom, standing on what I believe and like trying to push that out because to most white people, things are like I keep going back to saying, like, it's opinion to them, and so when things are facts, you gotta stop speaking like it's an opinion.
I always felt crazy because like my entire life I'd be like, white people this, white people that, and people would like be like, why you gotta bring race into everything? But it's like, it is in everything. That's our
sad.
Like, that's America,
yeah.
It's in everything. And now, like, this past week, this first time I've seen other white people say white people this, white people that. I'm like, finally, like, I'm vindicated.
Finally, yeah. Don't be colorblind. It's okay. Call me black. It's okay. I'm right here.
Right.
It's all right. Don't be scared. Be willing.
Yeah. See my blackness, appreciate it. Like, I'll see your whiteness and appreciate it. We don't have to like pretend our races don't exist. Let's see it for each other, man to man, woman to woman, whatever. Like, and go with it.
And part going back to that, the whole what Tony Dungy said. That's why I think that was really important what he said, because I actually didn't like how people right off the bat were just like, oh, F Drew Brees, and he's canceled. But like this Drew Brees. Now, granted, he didn't know it at the time, but what he said took a lot of courage, just because he didn't say it the right way, because the first thing he said was, I will never agree with, and you can't say that because that automatically means, okay, I don't care what anybody says, I'm not listening, right? But if he said it the right way, it was actually brave, just because it would have been like, okay, I don't understand it. Can somebody please teach me what is going on, why these people are protesting, why they're doing what they're doing? But again, he didn't say it the right way. But and maybe I'm giving him a little pass when I shouldn't be. But I just wanted, that's why I really commend Alvin Kamara. Said he went and talked to him, educated him. Michael Thomas said he went and talked to him, educated him. That's why that's what we should be doing today. You know what I mean? Not just condemning people right off the bat that don't understand. People that are brave enough to come out and say they don't understand, they should be educated, not screamed at. You know what I mean? So I think that's really important for us to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like, I know when I go back home and I'm with my boys, and, it could be my really close group of boys or just like anyone I just know, like from going to school with, and I like see them like post stuff, and then like they usually have like anger and resentment towards white people, which is an understandable thing. But I always try to like take it up with them and just be like, yo, you got to understand that most of them do not know. You got to like, it's sad that it's been a one-sided thing. We're oppressed, but it's still at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, it's still two people that have to work on it. You can't be prejudiced towards white people all the time. That's gonna be a lot of weight you carrying around as a black man. It's scary, and I do it myself, but it's like you're gonna have to open up them doors one day and just say like, I can't hate you for what your ancestor did to my people. You know what I mean? You gotta take that out of the equation at some point so you can be able to educate them, love them, you love them, like some black people don't take the time because they're like, I don't have time for that. They did me wrong and they're ignorant. I don't have time for that. And I don't think it should be like that at all.
Yeah. And I know personally, I've actually had a really good conversation with one of my friends one of my white friends, he said to me, oh, like, well, what's rioting and breaking everything gonna do? And what I responded to him was, well, like, and like everybody says, like, people have tried the peaceful protests and clearly it didn't get their point across. And now I'm not saying, oh, breaking stuff and everything is right, but I'm saying there has to be a way to get your voice heard. You know what I mean? And whatever meaning that is, whatever way that is, I don't care what it is. You shouldn't be upset about it because you're doing it if the first time you listen. You know what I mean? So and the point, and I don't think a lot of people don't understand. Oh, when people say, "Oh, kneeling is disrespectful," whatever. If that's how you feel, fine. But you got to understand the point of protest is to make people upset so that they change their ways. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if people are upset, then that means it's working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why this whole, when people say disrespectful flag, all right, whatever you see it as, fine. But you got to understand, if you feel some type of way, then clearly there's something going on here. You know what I mean? So that's just what I think.
Yeah. If one of the show hosts, he said it's no correct way to protest. Like, it really isn't. Like, you got to go and get yours at that time. Like, and it's always gonna be two sides. It's gonna be Martin Luther King. It's gonna be Malcolm X, and I'm with both. So that's all I'm saying.
And at the end of the day, they both got killed. So exactly. It doesn't matter how you protest, because it didn't work out the way we wanted to for them either way.
Exactly.
And that's another issue that I came across today. Someone tried to say like, well, if people weren't being arrested, then this wouldn't happen. If they could avoid the police, this wouldn't happen. But that's not a good argument, especially when Black communities are over-policed in the first place, number one. And number two, if you're trying to give me a Martin Luther King quote, he went to jail 29 times. So try and throw at me that you shouldn't be arrested, you shouldn't have to deal with the police. The greatest civil rights leader in the history of this world was a protester and a known criminal. So there's no excuse, there's no argument.
Exactly. He wasn't even he wasn't even really peaceful. His heart and his emotion, what he came with, that was peaceful. But when he got out there, it got real. So it doesn't make sense. But hey, people need something to make them feel comfortable in times like this. So because it's unjarring. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time, I think, like Gavin was saying earlier, Trayvon Martin was really the first time that we really got exposed to something like this. And I feel like in the past, that was what, 9 years ago almost. So this is the most like hyper focus I've seen on these issues in my lifetime, I think. So I'm really like just excited for what the future holds and hope that like we can just keep making progress, So.
And one thing I will say is that's why, and it's crazy because every single Black person in this country almost could have seen this coming right when Trump got elected, that our country would just spiral, because you can't put a man like that. And I don't want to get too political, B-Mac.
Well, yeah, I'll let you.
I don't want to get too political, so I'm just gonna end it like that. But
I'll tell you what. In response to that, we need a leader of this country that's going to see people for people, and we need somebody that's going to put this country in the right direction. I don't know who that is. Hopefully, you guys will vote. I'm going to vote. We need anybody who listens to this plus 10 million, to get out there and vote for the correct candidate in November. We need a leader bad in this country. But for right now, like you said, we are made, we got to put it in our own hands. Thank you to E-Man. I know he had the balance, but like you said, we need a leader, and it's like you said, for the first time in our lives, we're all 90s kids, outside of, some sporadic, Rodney King, there was some protests following Rodney King and stuff, but, this is the first time that we've really, luckily, we're finally confronting this thing, and, we, can't let up.
Right. And if it took Trump and international pandemic disease to get here, then I'll take it. If it takes all that to get some progress with systemic racism, then I'll take that any day. I mean, it is what it is if we make some serious progress with this movement. So
yeah, well, if you guys have anything else, I can't say enough how much I appreciate you guys coming on. I know anybody listening, if you guys have more questions for these guys, for Nate, Gavin, Corey, Emmanuel, who just logged off, if you guys have any questions for them, you can leave them on the pages, Instagram or Twitter, and we'll get those to these guys. But we're gonna put out a bunch of links to a bunch of bail funds, to protesters throughout the country. People being unjustly, brought in and get crazy bails. So, if people can make donations to those bail funds, and, the million different, charities out there at this point that'll help us move in the right direction, that's where we encourage you guys. You guys have any last thoughts as we wrap up here?
Don't forget, man, like this, let's not hope this doesn't like wash over in like a week. Like this is going to be like an ongoing battle, like the rest of our lives, our kids' lives. It's like it's up to us to raise the next generation right, So we get rid of these issues once and for all one day. It's going to be a long time. It's not going to be today or tomorrow, but we got to continue to fight.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, man, I agree there, and I just hope that, like we were all saying, like with this whole thing, that we just become more empathetic with everything and everyone's issues, and all try and be better humans for the betterment of the world. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but appreciate you having me on, man. This was fun. I enjoyed this.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
It's all love.
Appreciate you guys coming on. If anybody has any questions, please reach out. Thank you guys for coming on, and we'll hopefully we'll have you guys back soon.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Stay safe.
Love you guys. Stay safe out here.
Love you too, man. We'll see you soon.